Okay, good morning. Go ahead and get your book open to page 433. We're going to be taking a look at powers and exponents. This is the beginning of chapter 6, so go ahead and get it open to page 433. Looks just like this. We're just going to take a look at this first page so we can get some vocabulary down so you can fill in your notes and you can complete this page so you know what we're talking about when we're talking about powers and exponents and bases and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and read right up here. It says, a product like factors can be written in exponential form using an exponent and a base. The base is the number used as a factor. So this number right here is your base. Now, a factor we know are numbers that we multiply together. So we know that this 10 and this 10, those are our factors, or you can just write a factor. And then an exponent tells us how many times the base is used as a factor, meaning how many times are we going to multiply it. So do you see this 2 right here? That is our exponent. Now, take a look back at our problem. Our problem is really 10 times 10, which means we're actually multiplying 10 2 times. So we're going to put 10 down. That's our base, because that's our base number that we're multiplying. And then we're going to put a 2 up here to show that we are multiplying it 2 times. So basically, when we see this, we say 10 to the second power, meaning that we are really multiplying 10 times 10. So let's do this one where it says, give an example of an exponent. For example, if I were to say 5 to the third, the 3 is the exponent. Okay? Now, right here, if you want to write a definition of an exponent in your own words, that would be great. If you would like to just copy this one, that way we kind of have an idea of what an exponent means to you. So basically, what I would say, it's the number of times you multiply a factor. Okay? For example, if I had 5 to the third, that's going to look like 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 to the third, I multiplied my 5 3 times. Okay? All right, let's turn to the next page. Oh, forgot to mention, we get to start using our calculators now, so make sure you have those calculators out or ready to go, because you'll want them eventually for your homework. All right, let's take a look. We're going to write numbers as powers. Numbers expressed as exponents are called powers. For example, 100 is a power of 10 because it can be written as 10 squared. Numbers like 100 are perfect squares because the squares of whole numbers. So for example, here we go. So 10 times 10 is 100. So we would write that as 10 to the second power. Here, or 10 squared. You can say it either way. Here, we would write, this is 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10, which gives us 10 to the third, which is the same as 1,000. So taking a look here, it says perfect numbers are with 3 identical whole numbers, factors such as 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So the number 64 is a perfect cube, okay, meaning that it would be 4 length, 4 width, and 4 volume. It would make the exact, it is a perfect, if it's a perfect cube, because those are going to be all identical on 3 sides. So let's take a look at this one, this example right here. 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. Our base is 6 and our exponent is 4 because we are multiplying 6 4 times. It is not 6 times 4. It is 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. All right, let's take a look at this. It says write 4 times 4 times 4 using an exponent. The factor is 4. We are multiplying the factor 3 times. Therefore, the exponent is 3. So 4 times 4 times 4 can be written as 4 to the third. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at these examples. Pretty easy, right? As long as you do not multiply your base and your exponent. You have to know that this is 4 times 4 times 4. It is not 4 times 3. No, no, no. You would get a completely different answer. All right, so 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. So we have 4 sevens, which means we're taking 7 to the fourth. 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is 9 to the 7th power. All right, let's take a look at the next page. It says write powers as products. Okay, so basically what we're doing now is we are going to be looking at an exponential form, and we're going to actually try to figure out how much the value is of that exponential form. So for example, 5 to the second. We want to make sure if we have 5 to the second that we actually rewrite it as 5 times 5. And then this is where we get to use a calculator. However, sometimes obviously we don't need a calculator. 5 times 5 is 25. So 5 to the second really equals 25. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this next one. You're going to see here, sometimes we can do it with decimals. So 1.5 to the third really means 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at this. And of course, we also can use fractions, which is super easy. So here you'll see 1/2 to the third, which means 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. And when we multiply, remember we multiply the numerators. Whoops. We multiply the numerators and then we multiply the denominators, which would give us 1/8. So let's go ahead and do this together. It says write each power as a product of the same factor, then find the value. So here's the deal. We're not just going to go ahead and put our calculator 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. You have to write it down. You have to write it down so you don't make the mistake of going 10 times 5. So 10 to the fifth is really 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So 10 to the fifth. Now, when we use our calculator, okay, we talked about that little caret right before where you could actually do that, or you could type in 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, okay? So if we do 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 to the fifth, we end up getting 100,000, okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. 2.1 to the second, so that means 2.1 times 2.1. And when we put that in our calculator, we get 4.41. Okay? All right. 1/4 to the second, so 1/4 times 1/4. I multiply my numerators, which is 1 times 1, which is 1, and I multiply my denominators. 4 times 4 is 16. So 1/4 to the second is 1/16. Okay, let's take a look, and we're going to go ahead and do this page, and then you will be working on your homework. So let's take a look. We're going to go ahead and write each of these using exponent. 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 is 8 to the third. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1 to the fifth. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these examples down here. 1/7 to the third. So that's 1/7 times 1/7 times 1/7. So on our calculator, 1 times 1 is 1. We don't need a calculator for that. But 7 times 7 is 49. And then 49 times 7 is 343. All right, 2 to the fifth. So that'd be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And when you do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or use your calculator and use that little caret sign, okay, which is the exponent. So you put your base in, your 2, and then you do the caret, and then do 5. You're going to get an answer of 32. And let's take a look at this last example right here. 1.4 to the second. So 1.4 times 1.4 equals 1.96. Again, remember, it is so easy for people to take a look at an exponent right here and think that they should just like if we look at number 7, and think that we should just multiply 6 times 4. No, it is 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. That's one thing that you have to remember. Okay, so your homework today is practice lesson 6-1, numbers 1 through 21 all. And then make sure you put them on Connect Ed.